Hello, my name is Talha, and this video is about submitting a Spark job using Spark Submit and Livy. So before moving to the code, let me tell you that I have two Python files, and each file is a job separately. What one does is it submits a file, it reads a file from an S3 bucket, and stores that into a Redshift. And the other job is to moving that data from Redshift back to S3. So I'm going to perform one job using Spark Submit and the other through Livy. Moving on to the code, we have the Spark S3 to Redshift file. This piece of code will move the data in your bucket to create a table in your Redshift cluster. So what is happening here is I'm specifying a file path to the file events.csv, which is a CSV file contains I think thousands of records, and I'm just creating a Spark session and reading it into a data frame. Once I have that data, the data of this file into the data frame, I can just write it to the Redshift using the data frame.write method. The arguments here are hard coded for the sake of this video, and actually you must use arguments to pass the credentials and all other stuff of your file. So what this file does is it reads the data from your bucket and creates a new table whose name is this into the Redshift cluster whose URL is this. So moving on to running this command, I have already SSH into my EMR instance. I'm just going to run a Spark Submit command and the job will be done. So to run this command, I'll be using Spark Submit, and of course it is using Spark Session, Redshift, and some other modules, so I have to include jars and packages into this command. So Spark Submit -- jar, you specify the jars here. This is the location of the jar in my EMR instance, EMR master instance, and the packages that this file is going to use are mentioned here. And finally the path of the Python file, which is uploaded to my S3 bucket. So I'm gonna run this command, copy it, and before that let me show you that my Redshift cluster, there is only one table named movies in my Redshift cluster, and one second. Okay, there will be a lot of logs, and after that we will see that the table named event will be created in my Redshift cluster here, and we'll have a lot of data, of course. And after that, once this job is completed, we will create another job which will move this data from Redshift cluster to S3, and we will be doing that using Livy. Okay, just a little longer and it will be done. Once that's done, let me tell you about the livy command. Well, to move the data back from Redshift to S3, we will be using spark.read command, and it will just load the data from this URL, from this very table, into this data frame. And after that, I am just writing this data into an S3 path, and the format will be CSV. So the command I'll be using this is livy command. Livy offers a wrapper around the Spark Submit to work with Python and jar files. You can call the REST API of Livy using the curl command followed by the data and the host. So you can see here that this curl command is basically a wrapper around the Spark submit, and it takes data as an argument. In the data I've specified the file, the location of S3, the location to the my code file of S3, the jars that this command will be using, this file will be using, and the configuration. In the configuration I've mentioned the packages, these two packages, and at the end the headers content type JSON, and at the end the host. It is in which in my case is the master node of my EMR cluster. um, okay, it's done. Let's check out our table here. Our table is created. Let's collect some data from it and see if it's empty or not. Okay, so our table is copied to the Redshift cluster. Let's copy it back to the S3 here. It will be copied here because I have mentioned this path in my Python file. So let me clear this. Okay, we'll be using the curl command. Once again, this is the curl command. This is my data and header type and the host at the end. Once this command is successful, the data from the Redshift table will be copied to the location that I mentioned in my S3 bucket. You can see here that my job has been given an ID and it has state starting, which means that my job is already submitted and it is being started. And after a while we'll be able to see our file created on the S3 bucket. Let me refresh it once again. It will take a while. You can also call the livy API, livy REST API using your Lambda function. Why would you do that? Well, the use cases are most of our EMRs are private, and you do not SSH into them every time to start a job using Livy. So a better approach is to create a Lambda function within the same VPC as that of your EMR, and use that Lambda function to submit a Spark job using Livy. So in my Lambda function over here, I have done the same. I have created a command. The headers are same. The URL to my EMR and the data is almost the same. It contains the file, to the code, the jar that the file will be using, and the packages inside that jar. At the end, I'm just creating a request, and it is taking as arguments the URL, data as JSON, and the headers. And once I run this Lambda function, it will just do what this command right here is doing. I think it will be done by now. Let me refresh it. Yeah, as you can see, this file right here is created, which is of 95 MB, and it will be containing the data that we see in here in the table. Let me just delete this folder once again and do the same through Lambda function. It's gone. Let me do it through this Lambda function here. It's running. Executed successfully. We should be having the same file here. Once that job is completed, it will take a while. So eventually it will appear here, the folder will appear here. So what we covered in this video is we had two jobs, one from moving data from S3 to Redshift, and the other was to move data back from Redshift to S3. We submitted one job using Spark submit command and the other job using REST API of Livy through SSH into the EMR instance, and also through the Lambda function. So that was it. let it appear. We'll wait a little. Okay, here it is. The file is created and everything is going perfect. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much. Goodbye.